Welcome back to The Throwback, where today we're not celebrating the golden age of TV, but rather excavating its darkest corners. The early 2000s gave us some incredible shows, like The Sopranos, The Wire, and Arrested Development. But for every masterpiece, there were dozens of disasters. Today, we're counting down the absolute worst TV shows that polluted our airwaves between 2000 and 2005. Grab your remote, because you're going to want to change the channel on these train wrecks. Number 10. The Pits, 2003. Starting our countdown at number 10, we have The Pits, a sitcom so forgettable that even mentioning it now feels like resurrecting a cursed artifact. This Fox comedy tried to capitalize on the success of Malcolm in the Middle by following an unlucky family constantly plagued by disasters. The premise? The Pitts family experiences catastrophically bad luck in every episode. Sounds quirky, right? Wrong. The show confused unfortunate circumstances with comedy, delivering a humorless slog through misery disguised as family entertainment. The show was so poorly received that Fox pulled it after just 7 episodes, with 4 episodes never even airing during its original run. When a network known for giving shows multiple seasons cancels you mid-run, you know you've truly achieved something special in awfulness. Critics universally panned it, audiences ignored it, and today it exists only as a cautionary tale about what happens when you mistake schadenfreude for genuine humor. Number 9. Baby Bob, 2002 to 2003. At number 9, we encounter Baby Bob, a high-concept disaster that asked the question absolutely nobody wanted answered. What if a baby could talk like an adult? Originally spawned from a series of commercials, Baby Bob followed a talking infant who dispensed wisdom and commentary on his family's lives. The effect was achieved through creepy CGI that placed an adult mouth on a baby's face, creating something that fell deep into the uncanny valley and set up permanent residence there. The show suffered from a fatal flaw. Babies talking like adults stops being funny after about 30 seconds. Try stretching that premise over 22 episodes, and you've got yourself a recipe for televisual torture. CBS mercifully canceled it after 1 season, but the psychological scars from that disturbing CGI mouth remain. If you've ever wondered what your nightmares would look like as a sitcom, Baby Bob provided the answer. Number 8. The Mullets, 2003 to 2004. Coming in at number 8 is The Mullets, a UPN sitcom that believed an entire show could be built around a hairstyle. Yes, you heard that right, a hairstyle. The show followed 2 brothers sporting mullets who lived in a trailer park and got into various hijinks. It was essentially every negative stereotype about working-class Southern culture rolled into one offensive package, with a mullet joke thrown in every 30 seconds for good measure. The humor was as sophisticated as its title suggests. Sample joke structure. Look, they have mullets. Isn't that hilarious? Repeat for 11 episodes until UPN pulled the plug. What's particularly baffling is that even in 2003, mullets were already considered a punchline from a bygone era, building an entire show around mocking a hairstyle that hadn't been popular in over a decade was like creating a sitcom in 2025 about people who still use flip phones. The premise was dated before the pilot even aired. The show was canceled after 1 season, surprising absolutely no one. The Mullets remains a testament to the fact that not every concept deserves to be greenlit. Number 7. Coupling, NBC 2003. Now let's talk about the American version of Coupling, landing at number 7. This is particularly painful because the British original was actually quite good, a clever sitcom about dating and relationships with sharp writing and great chemistry. NBC looked at this successful British show and thought, Let's remake this, but remove everything that made it work. The American adaptation stripped away the wit, the timing, the chemistry, and the British sensibility that made the original charming, replacing it with broad, awkward humor and uncomfortable situations that felt forced rather than funny. The casting was wrong, the writing was wrong, the pacing was wrong. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. It was like watching someone try to bake a cake, but substituting every ingredient with completely wrong alternatives. You've got a cake-shaped object at the end, but it's inedible. Critics eviscerated it. The Washington Post called it a catastrophe. Entertainment Weekly said it was painful to watch. After just 4 episodes, NBC canceled it, making it one of the fastest cancellations in network television history. The American coupling remains the gold standard for how not to adapt a British comedy. It's shown in film schools as a cautionary tale, probably. Number 6. My Big Fat Obnoxious Fiancé, 2004. At number 6, we enter the realm of reality television with My Big Fat Obnoxious Fiancé, a show that perfectly encapsulates everything wrong. With early 2000s reality TV, the premise was essentially emotional torture disguised as entertainment. A woman had to convince her family she was marrying an intentionally obnoxious actor, whom she just met, in order to win money. The actor was instructed to be as insufferable as possible, and the woman's family's genuine distress was the entertainment. This wasn't just bad television, it was morally bankrupt television. The show gleefully exploited family dysfunction and manufactured conflict for ratings, with no redeeming qualities whatsoever. It was mean-spirited, manipulative, and voyeuristic in the worst possible ways. Fox aired this train wreck, and while it got decent ratings because people love watching disasters, it represented the absolute bottom of the reality TV barrel. When your entire show is predicated on watching people suffer through deliberately created, uncomfortable situations, you're not making television. You're making a spectacle for the modern age. The show mercifully lasted only 1 season, but it paved the way for even worse reality shows that followed. Number 5. The Will, 2005. Speaking of morally dubious reality shows, at number 5 we have The Will, which might be the most tasteless reality show premise ever conceived. Here's what CBS thought was a good idea. Gather a wealthy man's family and friends, have them compete in challenges, and whoever wins gets his inheritance. Oh, and film all of this while the family grieves and manipulates each other for money. Yes, CBS genuinely aired a show where families competed for dead people's money. It was like a particularly dark episode of Black Mirror, except real people were involved, and it wasn't satire. The backlash was immediate and ferocious. Critics called it reprehensible and morally repugnant. Viewers were disgusted. CBS pulled it after just 1 episode, marking one of the fastest cancellations in television history. The Will represents everything wrong with reality television's race to the bottom in the early 2000s. Networks were so desperate for shocking premises that they completely abandoned any sense of taste or decency. Thankfully, even in 2005, there were still some lines that, once crossed, resulted in immediate cancellation. Number 4. The Swan, 2004. At number 4, we have The Swan, a reality show so problematic that it's difficult to know where to begin critiquing it. The premise involved taking women who were deemed unattractive by the show's standards, subjecting them to extensive plastic surgery, therapy, and physical training, then revealing their transformations. The winners competed in a beauty pageant. This wasn't just bad television, it was actively harmful. The show promoted incredibly toxic beauty standards, suggested that women's worth was tied to their appearance, and treated plastic surgery as a solution to deep-seated self-esteem issues. Mental health professionals were horrified. Beyond the ethical nightmare, the show was also just poorly made. The transformations were often jarring and unnatural-looking. The emotional manipulation was transparent, and the whole production felt exploitative from start to finish. Fox aired 2 seasons of this disaster before finally canceling it, though the damage to participants' mental health and to society's beauty standards had already been done. The Swan remains a cautionary tale about reality television's capacity for harm when ratings are prioritized over human dignity. Number 3. Who Wants to Marry a Multi-Millionaire? 2000. Coming in at number 3 is the show that kicked off this terrible era with a bang. Who Wants to Marry a Multi-Millionaire, which aired as a special on Fox in February 2000. The premise was dystopian. 50 women competed for the chance to marry a multi-millionaire they'd never met. The winner married him immediately, on live television, without ever having spoken to him. It was like a game show mashed up with a wedding, with absolutely no consideration for the actual human beings involved. 23 million people watched this spectacle, making it a rating success, but a cultural catastrophe. The aftermath was even worse. It turned out the multi-millionaire had a restraining order against him from a previous girlfriend, which Fox had apparently failed to discover during their vetting process. The marriage was quickly annulled, the show became a national scandal, and Fox was widely criticized for creating such exploitative content. A U.S. congressional hearing was even held about television standards following this disaster. Who Wants to Marry a Multi-Millionaire? Set the template for exploitative reality television that would dominate much of the 2000s, making it not just a terrible show, but a culturally significant terrible show. Number 2. The Littlest Groom, 2004. At number 2, we have The Littlest Groom, a reality dating show that took the Bachelor formula and added what Fox executives apparently thought was a clever twist. The Bachelor was a little person, and the show turned his dating life into a spectacle. The show featured a little person choosing between women of average height and little people, treating dwarfism as a gimmick rather than simply presenting a dating show with a little person as the lead. It was exploitative, condescending, and uncomfortable to watch. What could have been a groundbreaking show that normalized little people in reality television instead turned them into objects of curiosity. The entire premise felt like it was designed for viewers to gawk at, rather than genuinely engage with the people involved. Critics were brutal, advocacy groups condemned it, and even many viewers found it distasteful. Fox aired 9 episodes before canceling it, but the damage to the network's reputation was significant. The Littlest Groom exemplifies how representation without respect is just exploitation with better PR. It remains one of the most criticized reality shows of the era, and rightfully so. Number 1. The Starlet, 2005. And finally, at number 1, we have The Starlet, the WB's attempt to create a reality competition show about aspiring actresses competing for a role in a major film. This show failed on every conceivable level. First, the premise was fundamentally flawed. The grand prize was a role in a movie that didn't exist yet, with no guarantee it would even be good or successful. Contestants were competing for a maybe. Second, the show treated acting like it was a series of party tricks that could be judged in reality competition format. It completely misunderstood what acting is and how careers in Hollywood are actually built. Third, the mentors and judges included Vivica A. Fox and Faye Dunaway, with Dunaway behaving so erratically throughout the season that she was eventually replaced. Reports emerged of her bizarre behavior on set, turning the show into an unintentional comedy about a terrible reality show spiraling out of control. Fourth, the challenges were absurd. Contestants had to perform scenes, do photo shoots, and complete weird tasks that had nothing to do with actual acting. It was like American Idol, but for acting, which doesn't work because acting isn't a sport. Finally, the show was boring. Despite all the dysfunction, it managed to be tediously dull, with no compelling characters, no dramatic tension, and no reason for anyone to care who won. The WB canceled it after one season, and the winner received her role in a forgettable film that went straight to video. The Starlet perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with reality television in the early 2000s. A flawed premise, poor execution, exploitative content, and no redeeming qualities whatsoever. So there you have it, the worst television shows from 2000 to 2005. A period when networks were willing to greenlight absolutely anything, in the desperate hope that it might become the next big thing. Looking back at these shows, they represent more than just bad entertainment. They're cultural artifacts that reveal what networks thought audiences wanted: exploitation, spectacle, and cheap thrills. The early 2000s were a Wild West period for reality television, where ethical considerations were often abandoned in favor of ratings. The good news is that many of these shows led to industry reforms, better standards, and more thoughtful programming. We learned from these mistakes, mostly. Television evolved, audiences became more sophisticated, and networks realized that exploitation wasn't a sustainable business model. But these shows still exist in the archives, preserved forever, as reminders of television's darkest hour. They're cautionary tales about what happens when creativity is abandoned for gimmicks, when human dignity is sacrificed for ratings, and when networks forget that their content has real consequences. If you enjoyed this deep dive into television's most unforgettable misfires, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future journeys into the strange, the shocking, and the spectacularly misguided moments of pop culture. This has been The Throwback, where nostalgia isn't just remembered, it's replayed.